New this morning, the rising threat of coastal flooding in Hampton Roads. New research shows just how vulnerable we are.
Yeah, it shows a wobble in the orbit of the moon is about to have a big impact on how high our floodwaters rise here on the East Coast. And as we all know from living in Hampton Roads, it really doesn't take much to make a huge mess.
If there's one thing that impacts our daily lives in Hampton Roads, above all else, it's water. Especially when there's too much of it.
In our region, there's a very, very fine line between what is nuisance flooding and what really starts to impact us in our daily lives. And that's about a 2-foot difference.
It's Jeff ORROCK's job to keep a close eye on that fine line. He's the meteorologist in charge at the National Weather Service office in Wakefield. And over the years, he's tracked the slow but steady rise of our sea and the devastating impact it can have.
The creep is sometimes not as noticeable, but then all of a sudden a storm hits and you're like, wow, you mean that was a lot of water.
Which is why he's taking notice of research that warns upcoming changes to the moon's orbit could lead to record flooding on Earth in the next decade. Ben Hamilton is one of the scientists at NASA who worked on that study. He's also a former assistant professor at Norfolk's Old Dominion University.
This flooding is certainly something that people in Norfolk live with and understand, and it happens. But I think it's important to consider that it's not going to necessarily be a gradual increase.
Here in Norfolk along the Hague, water from even a sunny day flood can be high enough to close some roads, even block access to these homes behind me. People in this neighborhood and many others have just learned to live with it. The question is, how much longer can they?
It's possible we're going to have these periods of very rapid increases where you go from having it a few times a year to many times, 100 times a year at high tide flooding. So it just becomes that much more difficult to live with when it's that persistent.
What concerns meteorologists like Jeff ORROCK about our future is our recent past. The last time Hampton Roads saw a major days-long tidal flooding event was during the 2009 nor'easter, when flooded-out cars floated in waist-deep water down Bush Street. ORROCK believes we will see images like these again. It's only a matter of time.
So we really are getting to the point where statistically, we're getting a little bit overdue for another big storm to really push these tides up pretty high.
All right, so we hear this and we think, okay, what do we do? How do we fight this?
Right, it's not all doom and gloom. There's actually some work already underway to make some of our cities as flood resistant or resilient as we can. In fact, the city of Norfolk is about halfway through a project that is set to dramatically change the Chesterfield Heights neighborhood right along the Elizabeth River, trying to keep the river out of the homes and streets. So tonight at 6 on News 3, we are looking at how to stop the surge. I'm going to show you what makes this project unique and why this could be the blueprint for keeping big chunks of our area dry and out of trouble.